Welcome to the Bible study. So today we are going to continue the Bible study about David and Bathsheba. The first part reveals what David and Bathsheba, what happened. So David didn't go to war as he used to, and he saw Bathsheba washing herself. He was on the top of the roof of his castle because he's a king. Then got her pregnant, called for her, got her pregnant, and then he put her husband in the front line to be killed. He died. She buried him, and then after she mourned, and that was over, David married Bathsheba. Now Bathsheba delivered a baby, and so we're going from here. And we are part 2, Nathan rebukes David. We are in 2 Samuel chapter 12. All right. So the Lord sent Nathan to David. Who is Nathan? Nathan, he was the prophet at that time. So he had entrance to David's throne. He would come and reveal things or say things, prophesy about. So they were like really close. The king should have a prophet, a real one, in the palace. And most of the kings they have, some they have wizards and other, other ones. Like Pharaoh, he had like wizards and probably witches and all that around his throne. But David had the real prophet, Nathan. So the prophet came to David to say, and he's revealing what happened, but he's saying a story. So let's see. So when he came to him, he said, there were two men in a certain town, one rich and one poor. Now, the rich one we know is David, because at that time he was the king and he could have anything he wanted. And the poor was the husband of Bathsheba. Verse 2. The rich man had a very large number of sheep and cattle, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb he had bought. He raised it and it grew up with him and his children. He shared his food, drank from his cup, and even slept in his arms. It was like a daughter to him. Now describes that the relation like husband and wife, Bathsheba with her husband, and seems to be a very good husband. He would not he wouldn't even go to his wife. He was so devoted. So he was a good man. Now a traveler came to the rich man, but the rich man refrained from taking one of his own sheep or cattle to prepare a meal for the traveler who had come to him. I know it's a little bit twisted story. The traveler was the bad spirit. The traveler was the bad spirit that got David into this sin, and he obeyed it. The spirit of the sin and flesh, and he went forward and went from bad to worse. So the rich man refrained to taking his own cattle from his own and prepare a meal for the traveler who had come to him. Instead, he took the ewe lamb that belonged to the poor man and prepared for the one who had come to him. So it's saying that the bad spirit came, which was like a traveler, which is a spirit travels and goes to man, doesn't like to be in the dryness, and came to David, and David followed that, went forward. And not just that, it took the lamb, which was the wife, he had lots of wives, but he wanted that specific one, and he thought he could have it. And it's what the portrayal of this story is. And it says like prepare that little lamb that the man had was just one he had. Now, the true story is a little bit different. Now, look at the David reaction. David burned in with anger against the man and said to Nathan, as surely as the Lord lives, the man who did this must die. So he recognized that it's like a sin. Now he says about the lamb and all that, but it's the same thing. He must pay for that lamb 4 times over because he did such a thing and had no pity. That he took the lamb, he must pay 4 times. He's giving himself a sentence without even knowing what's about him. Interesting. Verse 7, then Nathan said to David, you are the man. This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Now he's giving the word what he was sent to David for. He will say like, oh yeah, I know what you did in the hidden things. God knows, and I'm here to discover it. And this is what, what the Lord said to you. But he came a little bit with a twisted story. He realized that that man, and he gives himself because he's a king. He's usually a judge on the throne. He's a judge and a king. And it's what a king they did in those times. They were judging. So they would come with this story and he will solve it and will judge people. So he judged that. He says that person has to die. Now he says, you are the man. And now it tells what happened, what God actually told Nathan what is going to be. All right, I anointed you king over Israel, and I deliver you from the hand of Saul, which that was true. I gave your master's house to you, and your master's wives into your arms. I gave you all Israel and Judah. And if all this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. Wow. It says we have a words like a proverb in Romanian language. You kill by the sword, you die by the sword. And it's what I think the judgment of God comes over David's head. And it says that the sword will never depart from your house because he did. He killed through his enemies, which he put in purpose, he put in front. He didn't kill like a first-degree murder. We may call it second-degree murder. So it's pretty much it was. Verse 11. This is what the Lord says. Out of your own household, I'm going to bring calamity on you. Wow. Now the judgment of God falls over him, over David. Because he thought everything was good and nobody knows everything. Nobody knows what happened. He married and everything is good. She's going to deliver the baby, or she did. And they take care of the child together and, But now it says, before your very eyes, I will take your wives and give them to the one who is close to you. And exactly what's going to happen if you read later on in the chapters, exactly what God says here, exactly happened. And he will sleep with your wives in broad daylight. You did it in secret, but I will do this thing in broad daylight before all Israel. So everybody actually knew nobody knew about him and Bathsheba, but everybody will know in the Bible later on in the chapters about what will happen. Then David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. Wow. He didn't say, I have sinned against Bathsheba's husband or against Bathsheba. He said, I have sinned against the Lord, because the judgment comes from the Lord. Now Nathan replied, the Lord has taken away your sin. You're not going to die. So he gave himself, David gave himself a sentence to die, but God did not make him die. He says the Lord taking away your sin, that the sin is pretty much, the sin to die, he doesn't have that sin anymore. But because by doing this you have shown utter contempt for the Lord, the son born to you will die. Wow. Because it was made in sin. She was married to her husband, and he may, even though he's a king, he shouldn't touch that woman. So what God likes in David, he repents. He knows his sin. He realized what happened. Now he realized because Nathan told him. Before he thought, oh yeah, we can do this. And who's the one who's inquire of the Lord? This is the first time he did not inquire of the Lord. He went for whenever the flesh dictated him, and ended up bad. God erased his sin, and God can do that, and didn't take his life away, but he's going to take his son away. God likes a humble heart, and David had a heart. Even though we did something wrong against God, we sin against God with anything, probably with our mouth, in actions, or behind the scene to hurt people, kill people, you name it, whenever it is. If you come to God with a humble heart, he forgives you. He forgave David. He will forgive you. And moreover, we have Jesus, the blood of Jesus, cleans us completely. You can be a murderer like David, like he killed the man like a second-degree murder. He took his sin away. He considered like he did not sin at all. Of course, the punishment of the poor son, got on him, but God gave him life, continued to have him live. He will do the same to you, to me, to anybody who's humble, who bent their heads down and say, God, I've sinned against you. Please forgive me. And wait when God is going to do miracles in your life. Let's keep going. After Nathan has gone home, the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife had born to David, and he became ill. So the baby that he had in sin with Bathsheba became ill as soon as Nathan the prophet went home. David pleaded with God for the child. He fasted and spent the nights laying in sackcloth on the ground, like mourning, like it was like pleading with God to let the child live while the child was sick. It's like fasting and praying. He was spending nights laying down on the ground. And the elders of his household stood beside him to get him up from the ground, but he refused, and he would not eat any food with them. That's why God liked him. He was, I would say, so humble. He was pleading with God to let the child live because that was not the child's fault, it was his fault. And he wouldn't want to eat, he wouldn't want to go to sleep. He will just did like that for 7 days. On the seventh day, the child died. So even though David tried to intervene, it was already said by the prophet. God already determined that whatever comes from sin is not going to let it be, because as that grows from the sin, like a murderous sin, is going to be much worse. So they rather let the child die, as it was said by the prophet. And let's go ahead and see what is this. Verse 18. David's attendants were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they thought, while the child was still living, he wouldn't listen to us when we spoke to him. How can we now tell him that the child is dead? He may do something desperate. It sounds like he's going to take his life as well. Verse 19. David noticed that his attendants were whispering among themselves, and he realized the child was dead. And he asked, "Is the child dead?" he asked. "Yes," they reply, "he is dead." Wow. Now it's on the other side. Bathsheba lost her husband, now lost the baby, and just because going in the evening taking a shower or whenever, I'm not sure if they could cover, do something, like she thought whenever she was, nobody could see her. But so she lost two, the husband and the child, in a very short time. Verse 20. Then David got up from the ground after he was washed, put on lotions, and changed his clothes. He went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. And that's who David is. He's not like, "God, you took my son. Now I'm going to turn my head away from you. I'm not going to worship you. I'm not going to attend you. I'm not going to want to know anything about you." He's the opposite. That's why God loved David so much. We got to learn from that. It was like he deserved probably that. The child didn't deserve, but he deserved it because what he did, and he knew he did deserve it. He pleaded with God. God just let it be whenever he wanted. And now then he went to his own house, and at his request they served him food and he ate. His attendant asked him, "Why are you acting this way? While the child was alive, you fasted and wept, but now that the child is dead, you get up and eat?" So it's like the opposite. Instead of attending the child and like being happy the child is still alive, but the child was sick. And then when it dies, then you mourn, and then you don't eat and you don't sleep. But he's the opposite. The answer: "While the child was still alive, I fasted and wept. I thought, who knows, the Lord may be gracious to me and let the child live. But now that he's dead, why should I go on fasting? Can I bring him back again? I will go to him, but he will not return to me." He knew there will be a time when he's going to go back where his ancestors, to God, and he will meet his child again, but the child cannot come back to him. He's very knowledgeable with that part. Verse 24. Then David comforted his wife Bathsheba, and he went to her and made love to her. She gave birth to a son, and they named him Solomon. Wow. The Lord loved him. Wow. I know that was just now the past is behind. God will not bring the past back to you, and neither you should do that either. You should not live in the past. You should live the present. So they gave him a son that they named Solomon. And guess what? Solomon is the lineage when Jesus came. So even though with the child that was previously, he couldn't make a lineage to Christ because he was made in sin. But with this one, God wanna have lineage to his son Jesus. The Lord loved him, and because the Lord loved him, he sent word through Nathan the prophet to name him Jedidiah, which is pretty much Solomon. Wow. I'm not sure if you guys know who Solomon was. Solomon was the most wise man on earth. It's what God put the rest. Whenever I say the prophet Nathan say before, that came that came over David after that, but through different sons he had. All right, let's go to verse 26. Meanwhile, Joab fought against Rahab of the Ammonites and captured the royal citadel. Joab then sent messengers to David saying, I have fought against Rahab and taken its water supply. So they siege the city, no water, nothing to go. They want to conquer the city. Now muster the rest of the troops and besiege the city and capture it. Otherwise, I will take the city and it will be named after me. So David mastered the entire army and went to, this is I portray like David is in the front here. So he learned a lesson. He shouldn't stay home and just walk around on the palace on the top of the roof that he could see everybody else. He should go and fight with his soldiers. So David mastered the entire army and went to Rab and attacked and captured it. David took the crown from their king's head and it was placed on his own head. He weighed a talent of gold and it was set with precious stones. David took a great quantity of plunder from the city and brought out the people who were there, consigning them to labor with saws and with iron picks and oxes, and he made them work at brickmaking. David did this to all the Ammonites' towns. Then he and his entire army returned to Jerusalem. So he won the battle. He made even with God. God blessed him and his wife Bathsheba. And everything at this point goes well. So I know it's the end of it. The things we take from the story, the teaching from this story, will take in that anything we do, we just have to bow our heads and plead with God for mercy and just say, I know I did wrong, but forgive me. God will forgive you and you can move on without any blemish and without any sin, because the job of Jesus did on the cross and the blood he shed for you and for me, you'll be sinless. And you can go and be blessed as God blessed David. After all, he will bless you and me. All right. I hope you enjoyed this Bible study as much as I enjoy it. Till next time, I say goodbye. Goodbye now.